I always had the feeling and had the opinion that Jae-kyung had a hard childhood and past, but I'd never thought that it would be that dark. And let me tell you, I just know that what we got from the coach is only the tip of the iceberg of what happened to Jae-kyung. Because, remember? At some point he left the coach, so the coach only knows Jae-kyung until that point. Not what happened then with him. One thing is clear, I just hate Jae-kyung's father, who turned from a professional boxer to a mobster. And now he didn't only was a bad husband to Jae-kyung's mother, but also the complete worst that could happen to any child. To me, he just was a coward and failure at the end, who projected his fears and loses onto his child. Much more that his mother turned her back to her family and left. Why? What happened? What brings a mother to leave her son in an abusive household with an aggressive father who behaves like complete trash? What happened that Jae-kyung left? What happened after he found his father in their home? What happened between him and Baek Joo-min? Was he also a child he went to the gym with in earlier days, since there were more children back then? So many questions and much more since we know that Jae-kyung is a mystery himself. The thing is that we get small pieces that lead to the whole picture in the end. We will learn why and how Jae-kyung became the way he is. His childhood wasn't easy at all, and he definitely didn't come from money, what I already said a lot of times. He clearly is self-made, and because of that, although he has a lot of fancy cars and luxury materialistic things, I bet at some point he just realized that now he had everything. There's one major thing missing. Affection, love, warmth, all he never got. Not from his father, his mother, or other persons. He indeed majorly misses affection because I think he never really experienced how to be loved without having to prove himself or his worth. That's why he's suspicious of anyone and anything. He built up a wall to any kind of emotions and just focuses on proving he's worth it by being and staying the best. That's why he was disappointed when accusing Kim Dan to be a spy. When Kim Dan bought him a present for his birthday, he really worked hard for. When Kim Dan left for good, or when Kim Dan neglected his health and continued drinking after the doctor said to stop it. All his impulsive reactions are a product of majorly missing affection in his childhood. The only kind people were elderly who treated him good with warmth. Though he doesn't look like a small, malnourished, and fragile boy anymore, most of the times he still acts like that. He closed and distanced himself to any kind of connection or friendship, and therefore perhaps he didn't learn basic social skills in everyday life. Maybe the coach now functions as kind of a father figure he never really had, since he shows respect and addresses him formally with Hyung, but not Kim Dan, who's 3 years older. There's one thing I was wondering too. So we know that Jae-kyung's father was an addict who overdosed and passed away. We also know from chapter 73 that the children from the gym left and quit boxing and went on the streets to sell drugs. What if this fact is related to Jae-kyung's father, since he was a mobster and the former coach said that they are connected to mobsters? This would perhaps explain Jae-kyung's extreme reaction towards Baek Joo-min. What do you think? Could this be related? I think it's also interesting to see that Jae-kyung was good at school and just wanted to focus on becoming a professional boxer in order to get rich. I don't know why, but to be honest, I kind of thought he did struggle at school in terms of grades. Funny enough, that until present, he gets into fights easily when getting triggered. He's just a loner who really can't with others, in my opinion. In terms of his Jinx, I was wondering if this might be related to the death of his father on the match day where he actually won. Could this be? Did something bad happen on other match days too that all lead to this psychological outcome for Jae-kyung? What do you think? I mean, the Jinx has a physical aspect that isn't really connected to what happened so far. Perhaps the death of his father was just the starting point of much worse things that happened. So many questions, and luckily there's still a long road for Jae-kyung and Kim Dan to be truly happy. Let's have a look at the predictions from the Last Thoughts, Theories, and Predictions on Chapter 73 video. The first possibility was about the continuation of Jae-kyung's backstory that is told by the coach to Kim Dan. It would be about his childhood and journey of becoming an immature boxer. Though we didn't really get any further information about his mother, I'd still say this is what occurred. We learn that Jae-kyung knows Baek Joo-min from the past, but he was good at school. Komi's from an abusive home and experienced severe trauma. The second possibility was about the coach won't continue to tell Kim-dan about Jae-kyung's past and won't go on any deeper about his mother. But this would be brought later in the story again, and perhaps even told by Jae-kyung himself. Though this didn't occur, I still think this is possible for future chapters. I think the lore about his mother is of great importance. So I wouldn't say it's wrong per se. For this chapter, yes, but not for the upcoming ones. The third possibility was about Coach and Kim-dan stopped talking about Jae-kyung. Now that Kim-dan got glimpses of his past, we would still see Jae-kyung sick in bed and perhaps even with a nightmare, or whether Kim-dan is going to visit Jae-kyung after work. This didn't occur so far, but I still think, yes, I haven't given up that thought yet, lol, that this could be possible after the chapters about Jae-kyung's past have ended. Now that we know that he always had to take care of himself on his own, it's much more important and realistic that we will see Kim-dan take care of him. Firstly, it would be possible to learn more about Jae-kyung's past through Jae-kyung's former coach. We either learn what happened afterwards when Jae-kyung found his father dead at home, or in general what happened to Jae-kyung in his life and how he changed. Perhaps back then, the coach experienced his change and what happened afterwards. Let's not forget that something must have happened that Jae-kyung left the coach. Secondly, the conversation between the coach and Kim-dan stop, and we will see them back and present in the room in the hospice at night. Kim-dan will be devastated about what he just heard, and we will see his facial expression and reaction. Perhaps they'll even continue their conversation. Though I don't think that the coach will drop the full lore about Jae-kyung. I just know there's more and deeper about Jae-kyung than we think. Perhaps it's even darker than we had imagined since our boy Jae-kyung is deeply traumatized. Thirdly, we will get a glimpse of Jae-kyung in his cold, either how it was during the night or the morning after. Yes, I still believe that this is realistic, and will hold on to that theory, lol, let me stay Delulu. Now that we know that most of the time he was on his own, it kinda hits different to see him being sick. Loki, I already miss him since it's been 2 chapters since we have seen him in present time. So, what do you think? What is likely to happen? Will we get Jae-kyung's perspective? Let me know in the comments.